Welcome everyone to the OTM Plan for Personal Success introductory webinar. I'm really excited to be providing this webinar with you today. I'm Gary Ryan from Organisations That Matter, and I'll talk a little bit more about who I am and where I am from in a moment. But again, I'm really excited. 40 minutes is going to go really fast today because there's a hell of a lot of content for us to get through. So we're going to get straight into it. To enable you to make the most from today's webinar, I really strongly encourage you to take some notes. So please take down notes, and there will be some opportunities to ask some questions. In relation to that, with regarding to asking questions, you've got two options. You can either raise your hand, and there will be some specific times throughout this webinar where I will be asking you to do exactly that, or you can type your questions in using your keyboard. So you can use one or the other. Because we're recording this webinar, I won't use your full name, but I will use your first name. And if you prefer for me not to use any names, just say anon when you type in your question. Obviously, if you use your microphone, I'll probably be of the impression that you'll be wanting to use your first name. This webinar is being recorded, and you will all be sent a recording of this webinar, so I encourage you to make sure you go back and have a look at that webinar, and in fact you can do that as many times as you like. And because it's a recorded webinar, you also have the entitlement to be able to share it with other folk that you might think would find this topic particularly useful. And from my experience, most people actually do find this very useful. With regards to asking questions, again, because there's a lot of content, this is a pretty content-heavy webinar today. There will be a few opportunities throughout the webinar where you will see this little person up against a question mark. When you see that, that's the opportunity for you to pop your hand up to ask a question using your microphone, or to have me answer the ones that you've typed in. So we're going to use this as the opportunity to have the interaction as we go through, but you'll also see there will be some polls as we go. A little bit about myself and Organisations That Matter. I'm one of the founding directors of Organisations That Matter, and Organisations That Matter fundamentally exist to support senior and developing leaders who share our belief that organisational success comes through enabling people to shine. If people don't believe that, that's fine, but we're probably not the organisation to work with. If you do believe that, then there's a lot of things in the systems and process, and also in the people practices that you do, and also in your own development as leaders, that we work with you on so that you can ensure that you create the success that you desire. Here's just a brief list of the sort of clients that we've worked with over time, and as you can see, people who share our view work in all sorts of industries, from government to mining to services, industrial services, elite sport, etc., etc. So we cover a whole wide range of services. It's because of the and industries, it's because of the focus that we have is about people, again, who share our view that people are what matters when it comes to organisational success. As we progress through, it's important for me to recognise for you and just talk about briefly, well, where has this program actually come from? What's sort of some of the background? Where could you go and do some further reading if you wanted to? I think while there's quite a long list, really, probably the key ones worth identifying are Napoleon Hill, who wrote his book Think and Grow Rich back in the 1930s, which I still think is one of the foundations of a lot of the self-help programs that we have here in our modern day. Robert Fritz is an absolute genius, and his work in the Path of Least Resistance series is a significant foundation for the work that you'll see here for the OTM Plan for Personal Success program, as is Peter Senge. Now, interestingly, Robert Fritz is one of Peter's mentors, and if you've been exposed to the Fifth Discipline series, that's certainly been an informing set of theories for the program that I've got for you today. Certainly Stephen Covey and the 7 Habits series, the 7 Habits of Success, if you're not familiar with Stephen's work. Jim Collins and the Built to Last series, and his business partner Jerry Porras, who also has what he calls his Success Built to Last series. Built to Last from Jim Collins is really for organisations, and Success Built to Last is for individuals, but there's lessons from both of them that have taken over time to include in this particular product. And Dr. Andrew O'Brien with his Evolution of Shared Vision thesis, of which I was a member of his research team, both for his master's program and for his doctoral program. So I work very closely with Andrew in the development of his Evolution of Shared Vision thesis, and my own organisational storytelling research, in conjunction with the fact that I have now provided this program to over 1,000 people through various forms of this program. So I've got a fair bit of experience about what works and what doesn't work, and we've been able to refine the program over time. So what are we really looking at today? Well, what we're looking at today for you is 1 concept, 5 principles, and 6 vital strategies to enable you to create the success that you desire at an individual level. What I'd like to do is to quickly have you let me know what your results are for this quick poll. So I'd just like to launch a quick poll and for you to just identify for me what would be the your response to this question. Do you currently have a written and integrated life plan? So I'd like you to just respond to that, please. A written and integrated life plan. I'll just give you a few more moments. Okay, we'll close that poll and I'll just share the results of the poll with you. You'll see that at the moment we have 2/3 of us have a plan that's in low detail. 1/3 of us have it in our head, but we've also got an addition person to add to that poll, which changes the statistics a little bit more. It's either about, because we've got someone on the telephone who can't actually answer the poll live. So what we've got is we've got the response at the moment of about 50% in low detail and about 50% in your head. This is very, very normal. From my experience of working with over those 1,000 people, less than 10 people out of that 1,000 have actually indicated to me that they have a fully detailed plan. So less than 10 people out of 1,000 have indicated that. So it's very, very normal for people not to have a clear and detailed plan for themselves. About just under 10% of people have indicated that, yes, they have some form of a plan, whether it be like Post-it notes with some goals written on it, which go around their door jamb or sit next to their study on the wall or something along those things. So some people have got those sorts of things, but in terms of a detailed life plan, the vast majority of people don't have one, and that's pretty consistent with the results that we've just seen today with our poll. Keeping in mind that with our poll statistics today, we've also got some folk where we've got multiple people on the same call at the same time. An important aspect to consider is memories of the future, which came from a guy called David Ingvar, who was a clinical neurophysiologist through the Karolinska Hospital in Stockholm in Sweden. Now, David's work was referred to by Ari de Geus, and Ari de Geus wrote a book called The Living Company, and Ari came from a company called Royal Dutch Shell. Some of you may have come across his work in some of your own reading over time or through any sort of business programs that you might have done, and Ari was the corporate planning director. And it was through reading Ari's book well over a decade ago where I came across this reference to The Memories of the Future by David Ingvar. And what David actually says, in simple terms, is that when you write things down, something happens in our brain which clarifies for us what we're writing down. It makes it more clear. So in terms of writing down personal plans and the content of personal plans, by writing those things down, it actually makes it more clear in our head what it is we're striving to achieve. Now, what's also interesting about David's research is that he says when you get that understanding and you get that clarity, it makes it easier for you to take whatever actions you need to do to bring that future, to create that future that you have written down. So it's more than think it and it will come. This is think it, write it, and then take action, and what you want to have happen will come true. And David's research in many levels is very foundational. And from my own personal experience of now having been doing this for about, just over a decade, it's amazing the power of writing things down, even when they seem crazy, and how over time you can actually bring them to life and create them. And I'll keep using that word creation, because creative tension is a very, very powerful and important aspect of this particular program. What you'll see here is, if you can see, we've got the current reality and the vision part, and you'll see with my fingers over on the side in the image that you can see on the screen with the elastic band. Imagine that there's an elastic band between your vision and your current reality. Providing there's a gap between your vision and your current reality, that elastic band has tension in it. And that tension in the elastic band wants to bring your present reality or your current situation towards your vision. Now, why am I not saying that you should lower your vision? The reason is, if you lower your vision, it becomes something that you don't want. Who's going to do any work for something that they don't want? That wouldn't make sense. So clearly, your vision needs to stay where it is, and that's why the tension in the elastic band will bring your current reality towards it. What's the tension in the middle? Well, they're all the strategies and the actions that you're going to do to bring you toward your vision. Now, over time, your present reality will actually start to move towards your vision, and the tension in the elastic band starts to reduce. So what you have to do then is you have to reset your vision. So there needs to always be a gap between where you want to be and where you currently are. Because when you find yourself in a situation where there is no tension in your elastic band, where there is no gap between your vision and current reality, that's when you can struggle for motivation. That's when you can really be struggling. I don't know what to do today. I don't really feel like getting out of bed. That's when those sorts of things can start to kick in, and you can start to flounder and really struggle in terms of moving to where you want to go. Now, I'd like to think that if I do reach the average Australian male's age of 79, that when they've burned me, buried me, or whatever they're going to do to me, that the people saying my eulogy say, you know, he was a really good guy. He had a go at doing things, and he did all these achievements. But guess what? There's still a few things that Gary didn't finish. I'd have a smile on my face if I was buried or burned or whatever they're going to do, because I'd still have that elastic band working for me at that level. And what we're talking about today really is about elastic bands at multiple levels within your personal plan. Now, I want to talk through the normal planning template. Now, this isn't exactly what you get when you do a personal plan for success, so it's really just to show you the structure. Fundamentally, you'll have a lot more detail on what's shown in this particular picture here in your vision section. But what is important is that you have at your vision, you work on your vision first. You start and focus on what you want first. You then look at what's my present reality second. And the third step and fourth steps are you then work out, well, what am I going to do to move me from my present reality toward my vision? We don't start, you might notice, with your present reality first. And the reason for that is, if you start with your present reality, people can find lots of reasons why they actually can't have what they want. And so often, if we start with step 2 first rather than step 1 first, we trip ourselves up. So it's always important in any planning process. In fact, I suggest this, whether it be personal, organisational, or for your team, always start with, when you're planning, what do you want first? What's the outcome look like? Then get to your present reality. That's where you get real. And then you work out, well, given our real situation and what we want, what on earth do we have to do to get there? And clearly the fourth step is, once you've worked out all the various strategies you might consider, you have to work out which are the key ones, which are the high leverage strategies that if I do them, it's like everything else seems to happen. I want to show you a planning hierarchy that we do to help people. Today I'm talking at what's called this level 1 prime chart level, which is longer term, generally speaking 5+ years. And some people can set a plan that's significantly longer than that. In fact, I work currently on a 13-year personal plan at this prime chart level. Once you've worked out your strategies at the prime chart level, if you were to, I'll use the metaphor here of double-clicking. If you were to double-click the strategies, what you want to do for each specific strategy that's going to move you from a whole-of-life level, from your present reality to your vision, you need to actually work out, well, what's this specific outcome for this strategy look like? What are the details at the start for this specific strategy, and what are the specific actions I'm going to do? Most people find that if they take each of their strategies at their prime chart and double-click them to this level and then do this level of detail, that's enough for most people and would actually create something between a 15 to 20-page document for you. That's like a strategic plan for yourself, which is exactly what we're trying to do. Some of the things that you have in this level 2 support chart, you might actually need to double-click to a third level of detail. So, for example, over in prime chart over here, I had some career and business strategies that were written in my vision chart. When I double-clicked that about specifically my business and making the organisations that matter a successful organisation, I got really clear about what that looked like and what my starting point is, and then I had a whole bunch of actions in there. One of those actions include being a published author. Now, I'd never written a book before, so I didn't still really know what I needed to do at the level of detail that was going to help me take the action that I needed to do. So when I double-clicked that one in particular, I had the desired outcome for what my book was going to look like and what success would mean. I had my starting point, which included that I'd never written a book before and I hadn't really done much public writing before and a whole bunch of things like that, and I really didn't know much about publishing. And then I worked out specifically what were all the different things I needed to do to enable me to publish my first book, which was What Really Matters for Young Professionals, which was released in July 2010. Now, there were times when I was writing that book that it was really frustrating and difficult, but when I was over here at this third level, this action and issue chart level, I was able to recognise, gee, if I don't do this, I'm reducing the chances of making this career chart work, my level 2 chart work, which actually means it's going to affect my overall prime chart vision. So, you know what, Gary, get over yourself and keep doing it. And when you have your plan set up like this, it can be unbelievably powerful to enable you to do the things that are difficult because you can see their context and you can see how they relate to the future that you're trying to create for yourself. What I'd like to do now is to just create the opportunity for you to ask some questions about anything that you've seen so far. So if anyone has a question, please feel free to either raise your hand or to type in your question. So I'll just give you a moment to do that. Just see if anyone has got any questions at this point in time. Okay, I think we're good, so we'll keep moving. Okay, and if the questions come through a little bit later, that's okay. All right, remember we said we were going to go through 5 principles for creating a plan for personal success. The first principle is passion. Expressing your passion gives you energy for your lives, and far too many people out of that 1,000 plus people that I've worked with no longer have that passion present in their life. And if you think about whatever you're passionate about, and a simple definition for me for passion is time melts away. Time disappears when you're doing it because it just is so aligned with who you are. I have to be careful even running a webinar like this because I love doing this work, and time can get away from me if I'm not careful because, you know, I could do this for hours after hours, but we've only got 40 minutes, so I need to stay focused. But that's an example of what I'm talking about with passion. What are the things that you do in your life that you're passionate about? It could be music, it could be drama, it could be your work, it could be something with children, sports coaching or something along those lines. It could be reading books and loving novels or whatever it might be. The important issue is to stop and think about how present is my passion in my life. Now, it has to be balanced with everything else you do. So maybe you only get to express your passion once or twice a year because maybe it's travel, and obviously you've got to go to work and earn your money to be able to travel. Well, what if also over time you could find ways of working your passion into your work or even shifting your career so more of your work is in your passion? These things are absolutely possible, but it starts with recognizing your passion. Now, some of you might be sitting there thinking, you know what, I don't even know what my passion is. That's okay too, because humans are natural explorers. We've created the world that we live in because of our capability to go and explore and then create things for what we discover. So you can actually go and explore what might be your passion. So if you're not sure and a friend says to you, look, on next Tuesday night, if you're free, I'm going Zumba dancing. Well, if you haven't got a passion, you could say, why not? I'll go give it a go because it's part of my exploring. These are some of the strategies that you can then build into your plan for personal success to actually go and explore to discover what your passion might be. And or, if you know what your passion is, how can you work into your life now, your passion, whether it be once a week, once a day, once a month, once a year, whatever, so at least it's present. Because again, and I've seen this so many times that when I have large groups of people when I'm facilitating these programs and I get them to then speak about their passions, people automatically start smiling and there's laughter and the energy in the room always lifts, which is evidence that people get energy from their passion. And you need that energy to help you to do the things that actually you don't really like doing, but you understand that you need to do them to create the future that you want. And again, I keep saying create the future that you want, because you can actually create your future. It's not predetermined. You can create a future that's the one that you want if you want to do it, but you just got to know how, and that's what today's all about, is giving you some of these principles. I'm not going to launch the poll for this one. I just really want you to just self-reflect for the moment and ask yourself this question: is your passion currently present in your life? And if it's not, what are you planning to do about that? And you might make some notes down for yourself. Okay, let's move on to this whole idea of personal vision, which, remember, that's the first step in the process. Is you need to stop and think about, well, what is the future that I want? And then we need to talk about why you want it. Now, often people get caught up about timeframes initially in this process, and my view is that you're better off not worrying about timeframes. And in the process that I take people through, I give you a range of questions, and I'm going to give you a sample of some of those questions in a moment, that really are not time frame specific, but I do ask you to have some stretch. You do need to think about, well, what does my future look like? So, for example, some of the questions that we ask in this space, just to get the juices flowing, do you wish to have a life partner? Whether you've got one or not now is irrelevant. Don't worry about now. This is about your future. And if so, what type of relationship do you want to have with your partner? So even if you do have one now, when you look into the future that you desire it, as far as you can into the future, again, Australian males' average age is 79, and it's 83 for Australian females. They've still got the men covered. What's the characteristics of the relationship that you want in your partner? And what other key family or friend relationships do you want to have? So with siblings or parents or grandparents or grandchildren or whatever the case may be, or close friends or colleagues, what are the characteristics of the sorts of friendships that you want to have and relationships that you want to have when you look into your future? What sort of health do you see yourself having in the future? Do you see yourself as being healthy? And think of the sorts of activities that you might be doing that would reflect that level of health. So some people say things like, when they look into their future, I just want to be able to be as healthy as I can to be able to do whatever I want to do. So if for them they see children or grandchildren, they see themselves playing with their children. If in your future you see things like travel, well, you see yourself being able to move around and do all the physical things that travelling requires. So thinking along those levels. Travel is another question, like what role does travel have in your future that you desire? So that can be holiday travel, it could be work travel, it could be both. It could be travelling to a holiday location that maybe you own somewhere else than your normal residence that you live. So travel can be that sort of thing. How can you have travel mixed in through various aspects of your life if that's what you want? Some people see, I'm more of a homebody. I don't really want travel in my future. That's okay. This is all about what you want, not what someone else wants. This is about you. Now we ask people to think about what would be the major achievements that when you look forward into your life, that if you didn't create those major achievements, you might be disappointed. Now, you can think very broadly about what major achievements would be. Obviously, you've got categories like work, and you've got categories like sport and drama and those sorts of activities, and dance, etc. But you might also think more broadly. For example, Michelle and I, my wife Michelle, we think about success and achievement being actually having our 5 children become adults who contribute in a positive way to society. Now, believe me, with all the work that goes into parenting, to be able to do that, it will be quite an achievement. But that's not something that's going to happen overnight. That's going to take years of work from Michelle and I, and conscious effort to be able to help that achievement become a reality. But we've got it down as one of our achievements. Thinking about, as you look into your future, what might be 3 words that you would like people to use to describe you? They're sort of reflections of your values. What sort of person do you want to be known as? I mean, focusing on those sorts of things, like just the 3 words that consistently, whether it be work colleagues, family, friends, whatever, you'd like to hear them use those words about you. Identifying those sorts of words and characteristics are really, really critical. So they're just a sample of some of the questions that we get people to think about. And as you will have noticed, even as we've just briefly been going through this now, your answers will be in different time frames. Some of them will actually be really quite far into the future, possibly far further than you might imagine. And it is important with each of your answers to your questions about your future to actually stop after you've written them and ask yourself, well, why do I want that? Why have I actually written that thing down? For example, often when we talk to people about the future that they want, we talk about the financial side of things. A lot of people say, I want to be wealthy or I want to be rich. We say, well, why do you want that? Oh, well, you know, I want to have the freedom to do X and Y, and I want to have the freedom to do this and that. And what they're really talking about is all the things that freedom's going to give them and the independence is going to give them. They're the real reasons why they want to be wealthy and rich. So actually getting wealthy and rich is a strategy to enable them to get what they want. It's actually not what they want. It's not the end point. So one of the challenges with creating a plan for personal success is getting your strategies confused with actually what you want. So you need to keep challenging yourself. Is this really what I want, or is this a strategy to get what I want? If it's a strategy, put it down in the strategy section and answer the question, what's this strategy delivering? Because that's actually what I really want. It's the same for the health side of things. People imagine they say things like, I want to be healthy. Well, what does being healthy actually look like? So really get specific at the vision level about what it looks like. Well, it means I can travel, it means I can play, it means I can dance, it means I can run, whatever it means. And certainly getting clear about that can help you with taking strategies or identifying strategies to make it come true. So the second step in the process after you've identified the future at the prime chart level that you want is to get focused on, well, what's my present reality? What's my starting point? And the reason why we have to do this, folks, is because if you don't get your present reality accurate, you might develop a great plan, but it's not going to work because you've got your starting point wrong. So we've identified the end point, which is our vision. We then have to get honest and brutally honest with ourselves with our starting point. My experience is that people tend to be one of two ways with their present reality. They either tend to be too hard on themselves, so they actually don't recognize the good aspects of their present reality, or they're too soft on themselves and they don't recognize the areas that really do need to improve. The real challenge in this space is to be honest requires you to be able to do both, to see the good things about now and also to be able to see the challenges about now. So similar to the sorts of questions that you had in your personal vision, it's very similar. Like we ask people to identify what are the things in their life that's positive right now. What are the challenges that people have in their life right now? What is their current level of education, qualifications? What are the current achievements that you've made if you look through your whole life? Across all aspects, and it's your life, so we encourage you to think very broadly about your life. Now, what are your hobbies right now? That question about passion earlier, is your passion present in your life right now? Do you even know what it is? What is the status of your key relationships right now? Now, sometimes when we do this, we might identify that, hey, in my vision, I've written that I want a particular key relationship to be a particular way, and when I look at the present reality, it's currently not that way right now. Hey, there's some real big clues about some strategies that you'll come up with later to get or to rather enhance the chances that your relationship will be the way that you want it to be in the future. And similarly, it's about, well, okay, when you go through your vision part, you need to work out, well, can I afford the future that I want? So in your starting point, you have to get real and honest about what's your current situation with regards to finance and wealth and how you manage your finances, because ultimately you need to be able to fund the future that you desire. Whether that be expensive or cheap doesn't really matter. You still need to get real and understand both of those aspects of your particular plan. And that's why we say with your present reality, you really need to be able to look at the good, the bad and the ugly, and overcome your biases. And one way to do that is to engage people you trust, to have a look at what you write in your plan. Get their feedback, because particularly in your present reality part, if you're being too soft on yourself, good trusted friends will tell you, you know what, Gary, you're being too soft here. That's not quite the way I see it. Or if you're being too hard on yourself, good friends will also say, and trusted folk will also say, hey, look, what about all these good things that you've forgotten about? You need to include them in your present reality too. I'd like to provide you with another opportunity to ask some questions, so I'll just give you a moment to raise your hand or to type in a question if you've got one. I appreciate there's a lot of information that we're sharing at the moment, and hopefully you're getting writer's cramp from all the notes you're taking. But remembering that this is being recorded so you can access this later on to review some of the information that you might be missing if that's the case as we go through. Okay, we don't have any questions at the moment, so we'll keep moving. So the third part is to be able to identify your strategies. So what we've got to do is we've got to work out, well, what are the things that we're going to do to move us from our present reality towards our vision. So we've worked out what it is that we want in our future, we've identified our present reality, and then we've got to basically, if you like, go through and brainstorm what might be the actions that we think we're going to take, the strategies we're going to put into place to enable us to move from our present reality toward our future. Now, I really have found this illustration from Jock McNish, who runs a company called Strategic Images, and Jock has contributed to over 150 books around the world with his illustrations, both as an author and as an illustrator. And I have the very good fortune to be able to claim that Jock is one of my mentors, and also I work with Jock in a business sense on many occasions. So if you are after someone who can draw what you need to have drawn, Jock is absolutely the man. Now, in this illustration, what you can see is that there is a person in the middle balancing on this wheel, and this wheel has, it looks like 5 aspects, but if you notice under health, there's also relationships. Over time, feedback we had is that people felt that relationships were so important, they also needed to be included here. So we've got this person balancing on this wheel, moving from their present on the left-hand side to their future on the right-hand side. If you look closely, you'll notice that the future sign has an arrow, again reinforcing that elastic band concept that as we get closer to our future, we need to in fact reset it, which is really the process of visioning. We should never stop with our vision and just keep it still. We need to keep the gap between our present and our future, otherwise we're at risk of stagnating. People often talk about the person in the background here on this particular illustration and talk about how they're either stuck because they're stuck in their present and they can't move forward, and or they actually don't have a full wheel, which is why they're not moving forward. And this is something that we find is probably accurate for a lot of people. They don't actually have a full wheel. There's specific and very clear strategies that they haven't been putting into place to enable them to create the future that they desire. And sometimes these people are considered quite successful by society. So, for example, they might be quite wealthy, and society tends to say, look, we're not worthy because you're so wealthy. But when these folk get home, and I have worked with them in the work that I do, they look in the mirror and they're actually not very happy because, in fact, their health might not be what it should be or they would like it to be. Maybe the quality of the relationships that they have is not what they should be or want them to be. So these people can really struggle in terms of not really having the future that they want. Yes, they might have the money, but there's other aspects of their life that aren't really delivering what they want. So what we're looking at here is this metaphor of balancing and embracing the balance of having a balanced approach to you creating your future. Now, while this wheel makes it look like every one of these aspects is equal, the reality is each of these 6 key areas is not equal. It depends on the focus of your life. What is important that you should be doing at least maintenance work. So, for example, if in your vision before you wrote down you want to be healthy and you could describe why you wanted to be healthy, but in your present reality, if you're talking about health and you're brutally honest and you said, well, actually, I'm not really doing anything consciously about my health, then the chances of you actually being healthy in the future are pretty low, in fact. You actually need to be doing some conscious activities to increase the chances that you'll be healthy in the future. We also talk about happiness with this diagram. A lot of people with their personal planning or sort of planning programs that they're encouraged to look at, it's suggested that happiness comes in the future. I agree with that, but I also believe, well, tomorrow I could get hit by a bus, so it's important that I have as much happiness present in my life now as I can. Now, I have found through my own experience and through people that have embraced this approach that they have reported that they're actually, while this is challenging to do this balancing bit in the middle, they're actually happier in the moment through that challenge. And by being happier in the moment and having a balanced approach to their life now, they're actually increasing the chances that in the future they'll continue to be happier. So this is not about nirvana, it's about levels of happiness. Okay, we're going to continue to walk through what these 6 vital strategies in a little bit more detail, so get your pens poised as we walk through. So the personal plan and self-awareness part of your strategies for success is really knowing about who you are. What are your values? What's your purpose? Why are you here? What are your strengths and weaknesses? What do your personal profiles tell you if you've done any personal profiling tools? So a lot of strategies in this place or in this part is actually are about getting to know yourself more. So actually going and doing those personal profiling tools, becoming more aware of what your personal values are. And if you're at all interested, one of the chapters in my book, What Really Matters for Young Professionals, actually walks you through a process to identify your personal values. Another part of your personal plan for success is actually identifying your personal success team. Now these are people who might be mentors, close friends, it might be a life partner if you've got one. They can be technical advisors, so people that have technical knowledge that you need to access to enable you to achieve the future that you'd like. So for me, accounting and finance were never real major strengths of mine, but clearly they're important aspects of my future. So I have an accountant and a financial advisor who are both part of my personal success team because of the technical knowledge that they have. Whereas other people like mentors, it's more like a whole of life aspect that they have, and certainly from close friends and Michelle, who's in my partner category there, which is family. And you might have people who are specifically coaching you to improve something in maybe your career or maybe even in your area of passion. That they're people that you've got specifically that are part of your personal success team. Now I know this element sounds a little bit selfish, but actually the final element with a personal success team is to ask yourself, whose personal success team am I on? What people in my life am I consciously contributing to helping them create the future that they desire? So it's a bit of a pay it forward concept here too. You need to have people on your personal success team, but you also need to contribute to the success of others. So in terms of your personal plan and self-awareness, part of that is also about having a plan. And every 6 to 12 months is when we recommend to reassess your plan and to readjust the vision part if you need to. Depending on the time frame that you're using, you might find that the vision part doesn't need to move initially because you've got a big enough gap. I mentioned before I'm working off a 13-year plan. 2 years ago it was a 15-year plan, and the vision part really hasn't had to change that much. I've sort of just got a bit more clear about what it looks like, but I've progressed and got closer and made some progress towards that vision over the last 2 years. In fitness and health, so what that's about here is about making sure that you are going to be doing the sorts of things that you need to be doing to enhance your fitness and health. So it relates to diet and physical activity. It could be things like I'm going to see the doctor 2 times a year and make sure I have a physical checkup whether I'm ill or not. So those sorts of often simple, but the sorts of strategies many people don't do are part of this particular aspect of your plan. Also included in this area is taking holidays. One of the great strategies that I learned over a decade ago was in December for the following year to sit down with Michelle and work out when we were going to have breaks, book them in and pay for them in advance so that they then happen. It's been one of the most powerful techniques and strategies that come out of this in fitness and health aspect of my own personal plan. Learn for success. What are the things that you need to go and learn and develop yourself in so that you can create the success that you desire? When I share examples, by the way, for myself, it's not because I'm suggesting you should do exactly what I'm doing. It's not the reason at all. The reason why I'm sharing these examples is to show that A, I walk my talk, but B, I've found through my own research in sharing stories, it helps you to work out what your own story is. So in part of Learn for Success, I mentioned earlier that finance hasn't been a great part of mine. Well, you know what? To actually be able to leverage the knowledge of my advisors in that space, I had to raise my level of knowledge. I had to go and do my own research, buy my own books, and lift up my level of knowledge so that I could have the sort of quality conversation that I needed to be able to have with those advisors to access their real knowledge. Because I learned without it, I couldn't have the sort of quality conversation that I needed to have with those particular advisors. So you find in Learn for Success, you need to look at all these 6 vital strategies and say, what do I need to be learning in all these other aspects that are going to help me create the future that I desire? And that's the same for the Wealth for Success. What are the things that I'm going to do to enable me to afford the future that I want? Now, clearly, we're talking about legal ways of raising income here. So what are the legal ways? So some people can have a passion for a job, and maybe that job doesn't pay so much. that doesn't mean, and maybe you've recognised in the future you want that you've actually got an expensive future. You don't necessarily have to change jobs. There are many, many ways through investing and all those sorts of things that you might have to go and learn about to enable you to generate the sort of income over time that you want to be able to have and to live the life that you want while still staying and working in your passion, even if it doesn't pay so much. So it's about being clear about that, and offline I can give people some personal examples about that. It's the same for career options, about what are you doing to increase the chances for your careers. Hopefully when you start to see these working together, you can obviously learn for success. For some people would include strategies about getting further qualifications in terms of education. Clearly that's going to help with career. I'd also like to think that as you're getting fitter, so you're in fitness and health strategies are going to help with your career because it helps you work and have more energy for work, etc. So what are the strategies you're going to have for career? What are the sorts of things that you're going to do to develop your skills? So maybe your job's not giving you the opportunities to develop some of the skills that you want to have in the future career that you want. So maybe you go and find opportunity and volunteer opportunities to be able to develop those skills a couple of times a year through getting involved in various charity organisations. Even though it's giving up your time for free, there's a clear strategy there that's about helping you to develop the skills that you need so that you end up with the sort of career that you want to have in your future. The sixth vital strategy for success is about relationships, and it's about ensuring that you're doing things for your relationships. So you may have noticed that there might have been some gaps between your present reality and your desired future or vision that you wrote earlier. Well, what are the sorts of things you're going to do to increase the chances that you have the sort of relationship that you want to have in your future? So this might sound corny, but Michelle and I, 4 times a year, we're busy, we've got 5 kids, we go out on a date. We call it a date, we get dressed up as if it's a date because actually it is a date. And we bring to life some of those feelings, I suppose, that we had way when we were just courting each other, etc., and before we had children. We recognise that if we want to still be in love in the future, we need to be doing stuff now that's going to increase the chances that that's still going to happen. Every Friday night is about Michelle and I after we get the kids together. Sometimes we'll just talk. Sometimes we'll sit on the couch and just watch a movie. And quite frankly, I'm not really that fussed what the movie is because it's really about just sharing that physical space with my beautiful wife. It's the same for good friends. You know, I'll Facebook like what they write. I'll ring them. I'll text them. To me, it's not a tennis match. So if I've contacted them 10 times and they haven't contacted me at all, so what? It's about maintaining the relationship. Until they tell me to nick off or they think I'm stalking them, which is clearly not what I'm advocating here, I'm going to keep doing that because to me it's a deliberate strategy to let people know, hey, you're important to me and I'm still going to do what I can to keep you in my life. And that might even be as simple as, you know, deliberately getting out there and catching up and having a coffee with people. These are deliberate strategies that you can put into your plan to help you create the future that you desire. And they would also relate to being consistent with those 3 words that you'd said you'd like to have people say about yourself in your vision section. Okay, well, create opportunities again for some questions if you've got any. Not far away from finishing now. Just if anyone's got a specific question you'd like to ask or type in. All right, we'll keep moving. The last principle for success is at the end of the day, you've got to do your plan. Now, again, through David Ingvar's research, if you write it down, you're certainly going to increase the chances that you can do it, but you've got to consciously try to put into practice what you write down. And some of your strategies will be difficult, no doubt, which is, again, why having that passion present in your life becomes so important because it gives you that energy to be able to do the things that are difficult. The other thing with the perform part here is that keep your vision in mind. Keep it somewhere where you keep reminding yourself about what you want because that reminder just makes it more and more clear. And it's amazing from a performance point of view how as you get more and more clear about the future that you desire, how you're then more able to take action that is required to bring it into reality, even the stuff that's difficult. Now, a final bit of reflecting about your vision. The prime chart level shouldn't be too tightly focused. So, for example, probably naming an exact job and an exact career might be overly focused at the prime chart level. So, for example, if someone said to me, I want to be CEO of Disney, I'd actually walk through them and ask them that why question. Why do you want to be CEO of Disney? And their answer might be things along the lines of they want to be in a global organisation, they do want to be in a senior role that has a lot of authority, they like the freedom and independence of that, they want the salary side of things, they want the ego side of it. And then I'd say to them, well, is Disney the only place that could give you that? And they probably discovered that no, it's not. That actually there's a whole range. So often it's really important not to get too tightly focused. Get your direction clear at the prime chart level, but don't get too tightly focused. It's at that second level, that support chart level that I showed you earlier, where we need to get really tight and much more specific with what our outcomes look like and what our steps will be. In terms of some of the options that I've got available for people actually completing a detailed plan, we do everything from a high-level 3-hour event where people actually go through and end up with like a 1-page plan for personal success, through to 1-day and 2-day programs, and sometimes with organisations I do 2.5-day programs spread over a month where each individual in a team will create their own personal plan for success. And then we compare that to the organisation and look for synergies and opportunities between where the organisation's going and each of the individuals are going. And right through to, of course, I do one-on-one coaching with people where I take them through the process and we one-on-one develop their personal plan for success. If you're interested, I'm just about finished creating an e-course for the OTM Plan for Personal Success program, and that will result in you developing a highly detailed, probably 18 to 20 page, possibly slightly longer, document for yourself, which is like a strategic plan for yourself, covering in detail all these aspects that we've written, that I've talked about today on this webinar. So if you're interested in that particular program, either indicate that in the survey when you're exiting the webinar, and or email me please at info@orgsthatmatter.com to find out some more information about that program, which will be released over the next few weeks' time. I know a number of you are already members of it, but I'm aware that there are some folk on this particular webinar who are not members of the OTM Academy. It's a free online community that I host where you can access a whole heap of information to support you as a senior or developing leader in creating an organisation that matters, as we've already described a little bit earlier. There are plenty of contact details for me. Please connect with me on LinkedIn if you haven't done that already. That's a very, very powerful social tool for professionals. You've got the Facebook page for organisations that matter. You've also got the various email addresses and my blog at GaryRyans.com. So please feel free to connect with me in any of those ways, including my email address. I'd like to thank you for participating. We've gone slightly over our predicted 40 minutes, which I thought was always going to be a challenge. I hope you've enjoyed this particular webinar. I will conclude the recording now, but if anyone would like to stay online, if you've got any specific questions for me, please feel free to do so. And once again, I would appreciate if you could complete the online survey as you exit the webinar. So I'll close it now.